It started with laundry. Late evening, the apartment quiet except for the hum of the washing machine. My name's Leah, 32, marketing manager for a perfume brand, which is ironic considering how smell ruined my marriage. Daniel was 35, corporate sales, the kind of man who turned charm into a business expense. He always smelled good. Always. Fresh linen, cedarwood, success. That night, it was different. A faint floral note clung to his shirt. Something expensive, foreign, deliberate. When I asked, he laughed, easy and practiced. "Client meeting," he said. She leaned in too close during a toast. Then he kissed my forehead, like punctuation. I told myself to believe him. I even convinced myself I did. After all, scent travels. It lingers. It doesn't mean anything. Right? But this one did. It wasn't mine. It wasn't ours. It was something unfamiliar that refused to fade. No matter how many cycles I ran, how much detergent I used, it stayed. The scent was expensive, foreign. It lingered for days, even after she was gone. I kept washing, but it never left. Before you judge me for not confronting him right away, you should know, I live in the world of fragrance. I understand how scent clings, how memory hides in it, how sometimes the air lies before a person ever does. I'm not the suspicious type. I'm data-driven, detail-oriented, the kind of woman who color codes her calendar and keeps receipts for everything, emotional and otherwise. At work, I spend my days testing perfume samples, analyzing consumer behavior, mapping how smell becomes story. Top notes, middle notes, base notes. Every scent tells a truth, even the ones designed to disguise something. Daniel and I were the same way. Layered, composed, professional. Our marriage was less a fairy tale, more a contract signed in mutual ambition. We didn't need passion when we had progress. He traveled often. Client dinners, conferences, networking events that blurred into hotel stays. I told myself it was part of his climb. He was charming. I was understanding. It was the perfect deal. Sometimes he'd come home exhausted, smelling like expensive whiskey and boardroom air, the scent of someone earning a future. I'd make tea, he'd shower, and the world would smell normal again. I told myself I trusted him because that's what adults do. But trust, like perfume, fades when you leave it open too long. It evaporates quietly until all that's left is the residue. I didn't realize I'd been inhaling a warning. We met the way professionals do, through a campaign pitch and a shared obsession with deadlines. He was the client. I was presenting. The fragrance was called Evoke. Afterward, he told me I smelled like warm coffee and control. I laughed, assuming it was just another sales line. But he remembered it. For years, apparently. Our relationship didn't begin with fireworks. It began with meetings, lunch breaks that turned into strategy sessions, texts about timelines that slid into something softer. Marriage wasn't impulsive. It was efficient. Two people who understood schedules, margins, ambition, a merger that made emotional sense on paper. We built a life like a showroom. Minimalist, curated, safe. White walls, clean scents, no clutter. 2 high-pressure jobs, 2 calendars synchronized to survival. He loved me in time slots, morning coffees before meetings, late-night calls from airports where his voice sounded smaller, almost sincere. He used to say, "You never lose your cool." I took it as admiration, the reward for being unshakable. But stillness can be mistaken for strength. And charm, I learned too late, can be mistaken for consistency. We didn't fight. There was no need. Conflict ruins the aesthetic. I learned early that silence keeps the scent from spreading. You can contain almost anything if you breathe through your nose and smile at the right time. Our love wasn't passionate, but it was predictable. And predictability, I thought, was its own kind of loyalty. Until the scent changed, and predictability turned into proof. The scent came back. Same floral amber note. Same shirt. Weeks apart. He walked into the kitchen one evening, jacket slung over his arm, tie loosened. The air changed before he even spoke, that faint sweetness wrapping around the space between us. I laughed it off. "Your client must really like leaning in?" He grinned, that practiced, harmless smile. "That's how deals close," he said, reaching for the fridge. It sounded like a joke. It probably was. But I still felt the burn of it hours later, like invisible residue on my skin. After that, the details began to multiply. The new shirts, softer fabrics, more deliberate cuts, the cologne rotation, from woodsy to sharp citrus, as if he was experimenting on someone else's behalf. The late-night showers, always right when he got home, like cleansing ritual or cover-up. You start to notice patterns the way you notice smells, not consciously at first, just a quiet hum of wrongness you can't name. One night while folding laundry, I found a receipt in his jacket pocket. Boutique fragrance shop, one of our competitors. Not unusual, except he'd never been interested in scent before me. I scanned the name of the perfume, Ombre d'été. It hit like recognition, the same note I'd been washing out of his shirts for weeks. When I asked, he barely blinked. "It's for a client," he said. "A gift. You know how it is." And I did. I knew exactly how it was. I even helped him wrap it. Brown paper, silver ribbon, understated elegance, professional, thoughtful, the kind of gesture that builds relationships. That's how betrayal starts, as collaboration. I tied the ribbon myself. Perfect bow, centered. My fingerprints on someone else's present. It happened on a Tuesday, the kind of night that shouldn't mean anything. I'd just come back from a 2-day marketing event in Manchester. Daniel texted earlier, "Home late, client dinner, don't wait up." Our apartment was still when I walked in, quiet in the way a lie is quiet. His cologne hung faintly in the hallway, but underneath it, that same floral amber note I couldn't wash away. I unpacked slowly, mechanically. Routine steadies the hands when the heart starts to hum. When I opened his closet to hang my coat, I saw his suitcase still half-zipped from a recent trip. I wasn't snooping. I just straightened it. That's what I told myself. Inside, tucked between a shirt and a rolled tie, was a small travel-sized perfume bottle. Clear glass, silver cap, the same scent. Ombre d'été, half-used, feminine, intimate. I picked it up carefully, like evidence that could bruise. A white sticker was still on the bottom. His company's travel policy required names on all belongings during corporate retreats. 2 letters were etched in neat pen. E.L. I didn't need to Google it. I already knew. Elena Lewis, regional director. His division. We'd met once, briefly, at a gala last spring. She'd complimented my perfume. "That's a beautiful scent," she'd said, soft and deliberate. I remember thinking she said it too gently, like it was a shared secret. It wasn't anger that came next. It was clarity, sharp, cold, procedural. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I cataloged everything like data for a brand audit. The scent, the bottle, the initials, the pattern. I sat on the bed holding that bottle like it was a report waiting for sign-off. When he came home later, his voice was warm, almost boyish. He smelled like whiskey and laughter. "Missed you," he said, kissing my neck. The scent hit first. Her perfume, mixed with his skin, layered over mine. I froze. My body understood what my heart was still negotiating. The worst part wasn't the smell. It was realizing how familiar it felt, how my own brand of faith had gone stale. He didn't notice me go still. He just smiled, humming softly, like nothing in the world had changed except me. It's strange how scent outlives everything. After that night, I couldn't escape it. It was in the sheets, in his car when I moved it for street cleaning, in the bathroom towels, the wardrobe, even the hollow of my hair. I stopped wearing perfume altogether. Every smell felt contaminated, like my body couldn't tell where I ended and she began. At work, people noticed. "You okay?" They'd ask as I blinked through meetings, my voice half a second behind my thoughts. I'd nod, smile, pretend not to be haunted by something as invisible as air. Then one afternoon, while sorting through expense statements, I saw it again, a hotel charge on our joint card. The Alden Hotel, the same one from before. I told myself it couldn't be what I thought it was, but habit dies hard. I checked. The booking was under Elena Lewis, paid with my card, the one auto-linked to Daniel's for business travel. The betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was logistical. He hadn't just taken my trust, he'd taken my billing details. That night I confronted him. Not in rage, in precision, the tone I reserve for performance reviews. "You used my card to cheat on me," I said. He froze, then scoffed lightly, a reflex more than a defense. "You're overreacting. It's not like that." "Then tell me what it's like." He couldn't, or wouldn't. I'm not sure which hurt more. A week later, he moved out temporarily to figure things out. He left most of his clothes behind. Every one of them smelled like her. I bagged them, tied the knots tight, left them by the door. Still, the apartment reeked of her. Not strong, but steady, like something had been burned into the walls. I started sleeping with the windows open even when it snowed. Winter didn't care. The cold was honest at least. He took his lies. The air kept hers. Time didn't move after he left. It just looped. Days blurred into a sequence of necessary motions. Work, commute, reheated dinners, empty wine glasses left on coasters. I functioned like an algorithm that had forgotten its purpose. Emails, meetings, reports, sleep, repeat. Somewhere along the way, my body gave up trying to feel it. The scent that once haunted me began to fade, not because it was gone, but because I stopped registering it. Olfactory fatigue. That's what it's called. It happens when the nose adjusts to a smell it can't escape. My body did what my heart couldn't. It stopped recognizing what hurt. At the office, people said I seemed better. I smiled, nodded, thanked them. Healing, I realized, looks a lot like good performance metrics. Months passed. I didn't hear from him. Not directly. But gossip fills the gaps silence leaves. Daniel had transferred to another branch. New title, new city, a fresh start. Classic corporate phrasing. Replace the problem, not the process. One evening, curiosity, or maybe muscle memory, made me check his LinkedIn. Profile photo updated, new banner image, a city skyline at sunset, a post from a recent networking event, Daniel in a dark suit, smiling, holding a glass of champagne beside a woman I knew too well. Elena. The caption read, "New beginnings smell like courage." I laughed. Quietly, painfully. Because of course he'd make his comeback sound like a fragrance ad. I didn't message him. I didn't block him either. Instead, I scrolled once more, then closed the app. Later that night, I opened the drawer where I'd kept everything. The receipts, the travel bottle, the photos. I didn't burn them, didn't throw them away. I just looked. Not forgiveness, not revenge, just documentation, proof that it happened, proof that I survived it. Sometimes moving on isn't healing, it's inventory control. Knowing what you've lost, what's left, and what no longer deserves to be stored. Now, I'm back in the office, testing new fragrance samples for an upcoming campaign. Different bottles, same promises, confidence, allure, rebirth. A junior colleague leans over with a blotter strip. "Can you smell this?" she asks. I lift it to my nose. Inhale. Nothing. After a beat, I smile. "Maybe that's mercy," I say. The truth is, I can't remember the last time I smelled anything clearly. Coffee, rain, paper, all reduced to texture, memory. Maybe my senses learned what my heart did. Some things are easier to live with when you can't identify them. He once told me the perfume on his shirt was from a client, said she leaned in too close, but the scent never left, even after she did. Now I can't smell anything without tasting betrayal. I leave the office early, step into the city's late afternoon haze, exhaust, rain, pavement heat. Everything smells like everything else now, blurred into one indistinguishable note. Maybe that's how you survive it, by refusing to isolate what hurts. I cross the street, passing a couple laughing under an umbrella. For a second, I wonder what their air smells like, if it's still clean, or if it's already turning into something they'll never forget. Some people lose faith. I just lost my sense of smell. It's cleaner that way.